So the main objective of this research is to provide a preliminary analysis of corruption and its consequences in Western Balkan countries. Through review of existing literature and initial examination of recent data, we explore the problem of corruption in the region and its impact on key economic and social variables. The Western Balkans region that, as we know, includes Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia, has historically been at the crossroads of European political, economic, and social transformations. These countries, emerging from long conflict, genocide, as well as deep economic problems of the past, have started on the journey of democratic consolidation, economic reforms, and the European Union integration. However, their progress has been relatively slow and many challenges remain, with the corruption problem standing out as a persistent issue that hinders development, weakens democratic institutions, as well as EU accession efforts. Fortunately, the European integration process has generally been a primary foreign policy objective for all Western Balkan states, offering economic opportunities, political stability, and institutional support. However, the road of each country toward EU membership has been marked by the different levels of progress. The EU institutions are fully dedicated to the European integration of all Western Balkan countries, a shared strategic objective that unites both the region and the EU. Accession negotiations are currently in progress with Albania, Montenegro, and Serbia. In March 2020, the European Council agreed to open session negotiations with North Macedonia, and the so-called screening process is ongoing. In December 2023, the Council announced that it will initiate session negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina, now a candidate country, once it has sufficiently met the membership criteria. Kosovo is formally recognized by 22 of the 27 member states of the EU, reflecting robust international support and a promising outlook for its European future. Well, despite some modest degree of progress, corruption remains a fundamental impediment to EU accession for all Western Balkan states. High-profile corruption scandals involving politicians, business leaders, as well as important uh, judicial figures have systematically weakened the rule of law and created an environment where illicit activities continue to flourish. Corruption manifests in various forms, from bribery to nepotism to large-scale state capture, where political elites misuse public resources for their own personal benefit. The consequences of corruption in the Western Balkans extend beyond delaying EU accession. Public money that could be used for better healthcare, better education, and infrastructure is often stolen through corruption, making social inequalities worse and slowing down the economic development. Corruption also creates political instability in the region, causing people to lose trust in the political system and pushing many, especially young and skilled workers, to live in search of better opportunities in fairer and, we can say, more stable countries in Europe as well as in other continents. In this context, evaluating and studying the phenomena of corruption and its consequences in the Western Balkans is crucial for understanding the region's political and economic trajectory. A relatively high number of authors have theoretically and empirically analyzed the determinants of corruption and its consequences in both developed and developing countries and regions of the world. Bardam in 2017 provides a detailed overview of the complex relationship between corruption and development. This author also studies how corruption influences economic growth, income inequality, and undermines institutional integrity in developing countries. In their seminal work, Rose Ackerman and Palivka uh, in 2016 delve into the pervasive, let's say, nature of corruption within governmental systems, studying its root causes and the respective consequences. Dimant and Tosato in 2018, let's say, apply or studies some different empirical studies from the past decades to identify the determinants of the corruption phenomena. Their analysis reveals that factors such as political instability, lack of press freedom, and weak legal systems contribute significantly to corrupt activities. Other important authors have evaluated how public sector accounting practices influence corruption control within different countries. For example, Quadrado, Citro, and Bisogno in 2020 evaluate how public sector accounting practices impact the control of corruption in selected OECD countries. Their findings suggest that robust accounting standards and transparent financial reporting are instrumental in reducing corrupt activities in these countries. On the other hand, Perez, Amir, and Su in 2018 investigate how institutional quality affects foreign direct investments inflows in both developed and developing countries. Their study results reveal that strong institutions characterized by effective governance, rule of law, and low corruption levels significantly attract higher FDI. Other authors investigate the influence of corruption on migration. For example, Curray and Snyder in 2016 investigate the influence of corruption on immigration rates, analyzing data from a relatively high number of countries. Their study finds a positive correlation between perceived corruption and the propensity to immigrate, particularly among skilled workers. The authors suggest that reducing corruption could mitigate brain drain and retain talent within countries. Now we continue with, let's say, an initial review of relevant literature and data related to corruption and other correlated variables. In future research, well, our plan is to construct a comprehensive database incorporating additional economic, political, and institutional variables for a considerable number of years and countries as well. This will allow us to estimate econometric models to examine the determinants of corruption and its broader economic consequences in the region. The table and the respective figure in this slide indicate the corruption perception index in the six Western Balkan countries. In contrast to EU countries, the Western Balkans have significantly lower scores, suggesting higher levels of perceived corruption. Notably, Kosovo and Albania have shown improvement over the period, while the scores for Bosnia and Serbia have slightly declined. Montenegro stands out with relatively higher scores among the Western Balkan states, though it still remains below the EU average. This table presents the annual percentage change in foreign direct investment (FDI) net inflows for six Western Balkan countries from 2018 to 2023. The data shows significant fluctuations in FDI inflows, with some countries experiencing sharp increases followed by steep declines. This reflects the vulnerability of the region to external economic shocks, as well as to policy changes and investor confidence shifts. The Western Balkans remain uh, volatile region with for these variables, so for the foreign direct investments, with significant variations driven by also by governance quality and economic reforms. Well, in the last decade, a growing number of studies have investigated the corruption problem, as we have seen in the Western Balkans, highlighting its persistence and negative consequences. A considerable number of authors have analyzed the relationship among corruption, weak institutions, economic stagnation, investments, and other relevant variables. For example, the work of Sotiropoulos in 2017 examines the complex relationship between corruption, anti-corruption efforts, and democratic processes in the Western Balkans, focusing specifically on Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. This paper highlights how patronage networks and political elites in the considered countries manipulate state institutions, undermining democratic consolidation. According to the author, anti-corruption measures are often superficial, serving as tools for political competition, or let's say a tool for winning national elections rather than genuine and effective reforms. This author emphasizes the need for comprehensive strategies that address both systemic corruption and the political dynamic sustaining it. Other authors analyze the role of informal institutions in, let's say, hindering democratic consolidation uh, in developing countries. For example, Marčić in 2015 explores the role of informal institutions, including patronage networks, clientelism, and customary practices in the democratic consolidation of Western Balkan states. The article argues that these informal structures usually operate parallel to formal institutions, undermining the rule of law. The author employs a quantitative survey in three countries: Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia. The paper results show that citizens consider formal institutions as highly ineffective, and as a consequence, they embrace informal institutions as the lesser of two evils. Well, the main objective of this research was to provide only a preliminary assessment of corruption and its consequences in the Western Balkans. Through an initial review of existing literature and an initial empirical examination, we explored the, the phenomena of corruption in the Balkan region and its impact on some key economic and social indicators. Corruption remains a significant challenge for the Western Balkans, hindering economic development of these countries, weakening public institutions, and delaying the European Union integration process. One of its most pressing economic consequences is its negative effect on FDI inflows, as international investors perceive high levels of corruption as a risk to business operations. Additionally, corruption has been linked to increased immigration in the Western Balkans, as many individuals, particularly young and educated, workers leave their home countries in search of better opportunities in more transparent and stable countries. This study provides only an initial examination of these issues, or we can say that this is only the first step in a more comprehensive research agenda. Future research will focus on constructing a complete database that integrates several economic, political, and institutional variables. This will enable the estimation of econometric models to analyze the determinants of corruption and its far-reaching consequences in the region. Thank you.